Hello and welcome to Robin Minds. My name is Hero Daniels. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon and we have a great show for you today. I was having a conversation with my friends the other day and I was asked the question, can I survive on an island with everything provided, the basics, food, shelter, water, clothing, and internet access will be taken away from me? And I thought about it critically for a moment, and I said no, because we live in a fast-paced world now where we're all connected together. The world is a global village, and no man is an island. You know, for every single thing that we have to do these days, you cannot do it without internet data. I know how I feel when I get that notification from my network provider that my data has been exhausted. I'll be like, who is taking this data? You know, how is the data finishing so fast? And that's because I consume a lot of data online, you know, be it work, be it leisure, you have it. So now the big question is, as much as the internet has so many positive sides, we're very much aware that it also has its dark side. And sometimes we see that this dark side overshadows the positive sides. Now, what we're going to be focusing on in the first part of the discourse today is how can we strike a balance, all right? We want to discuss the dark sides of the internet. Should there be some sort of regulation on our internet space? On our internet space, should people be allowed to actually just say what they want to say, how they want to say it, and when they want to say it? Now, what is the thin line between freedom of speech and actually maligning somebody's character or somebody's brand? We now live in a world where everybody is a social commentator. So long as you have data on your phone and you can hide behind your phone, you can just say anything you want to say. Half the time, especially amongst young people, people open troll accounts. And by troll accounts, I mean accounts that do not reveal their identity. And because their identity is not revealed, they can hide behind the keyboards and keypads and air out their thoughts. Now, there is a place of activism and there is a place of social commentary where people have to lend their voices to certain issues. That is a different case. But there's also a place of, it has become almost trendy for young people to hide behind fake accounts and sort of put out hate, put out a lot of negative energy on the internet space. And it's almost becoming cool, you know? To discuss this particular issue, does internet access cause decay in our society? I am being joined by communications personnel, Oluwaseun Imade. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Harold. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here, by the way. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again. You look very well fed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let's get straight into it. Can you sort of outline the positives very briefly and then the negatives of internet access in our society?
I mean, so the reality is that human beings are creatures of choice, right? So our God-given right to choose what we want to do and what we don't want to do, right? And then with the role of technology to sort of scale what that is, people have, now the chance to sort of say whatever it is that is on their mind without a chance of filter, or, the ones who have good home training, for lack of a better way to use it, can, say what they want to, can say and then be like cordial in the way that they address people. But sadly, that also means that the people who don't necessarily have this restraint or like understand what restraint means can now say whatever they want to say whenever they want to say it, which includes insulting lots of people and causing lots of chaos, in the digital media zeitgeist. It just comes with the territory, sadly.
Yeah. So now, critically looking at the social media space, we can differentiate that Twitter is a different world on its own, and it's almost become cool for you to put out content, and people find it trendy to just sort of have very strong negative opinions on that particular content. What are your thoughts? Why is Twitter different from other social media platforms?
I mean, Twitter is strictly word-based, right? As against to, excuse me, as against to like Instagram, that is very pictorial, it's very aspirational in nature. You trend on Twitter or you become famous on Twitter by the quality of opinions that you have, or the amount of people who rally around the opinions that you have, right? And some people's job is always to stay at the left of those kind of conversation, because it will get people talking. And it also doesn't help that the guy at the top has now monetized the entire trending process, so people thrive on actually being left in those conversations. That's why it has to be a world on its own, right? We don't know what people are thinking. On Instagram, you can see them and they're like, oh, you're famous. Let me be careful what I say. But on Twitter, it's like, what's my own? I will say what I want to say. I will finish you. You get that kind of thing, and it's sort of like a depiction of what society actually looks like. Me and you can sit down as friends. We can argue. We can mimic, but there's a certain level of self-respect. But now you have a platform where I don't know you from anywhere, right? I don't know you from Adam, so I can say whatever I want to say without any gauge on my own opinions or any respect to you as a person.
Yeah.
So in that of it's like a wild world.
Yeah, and also the issue of fact checking, because people consume news more on social media than actual news outlets. Yes. Like this one that we're actually broadcasting this from. People are very, very quick to jump on sensationalized news. So how do you think people can sort of fact check the things that are on the internet, especially on social media pages?
I'm like, sadly, I know that platforms are already implementing sort of like this fact-checking features, so as to protect a lot of people. I think even Twitter does it now, where you can then say, this particular news is not verified. So there's a role of the platform itself to then be, sort of have like stringent process on how they verify actual news that are put out, right? But again, because it's social media, right? Everybody's going to say, what they want to say. The onus also lies on people, right? To also, I've heard this thing. How far is this thing true, right? How do we begin to debunk? So there's a role for the platform to play. There's also the role for people themselves to then not just consume everything that they see. Because, you and I know we are like in the media, literally news can come from anywhere. You don't know where it came from, right? So the onus is also on people to become smart. You get what I mean? About what they choose to consume and what they choose to believe. Sadly, that's not always the case, but that's honestly the way forward.
All right, so do you think that our internet culture is actually affecting our culture as a nation? In the African society, respect is a thing. Respect for elders is a thing. And even when your elder does something that is wrong, there are very creative and much better ways to communicate what that elder has done, as opposed to insulting them directly. Do you think, the Western culture is affecting our African culture?
I think I would say yes and no, right? And a lot of people might not. Maybe the expected answer is like no, you get an answer. But I would say yes and no, right? Because if you look at maybe on tribal ends, for instance, right, the respectability culture that the Yorubas have is not necessarily the same respectability culture that the Igbos have. The Igbos can speak truth to power on the larger scale of things, right? But the Yorubas not necessarily. So there's a bit more, cordiality to how they address things, so to speak, and it varies from different cultures. People have different ways they handle different things. People come from different backgrounds in terms of how they address different things, right? So it does. People would come and say what they want to say, how they feel they want to say it. We have people who tell you, I don't care if you like take it, and me, I'm a straight shooter, and they will straight shoot on the internet, right? But as Nigerians as well, on a more macro sense of things, or a more holistic view of things, we are very respectable people, right? And we sort of promote that culture of that respectability. And it's not just even us as people. I think there is a culture of kindness that is also missing on a larger scale of things, right? There is just that culture of kindness, that how do I approach this? How can I approach this thing? But how can I speak to this person with love? Not everybody cares to do that, right? And which is something that I feel like more people should promote, right? More people should sort of double down on, because kindness really does not go out of style.
I like that. Kindness really does not go out of style. What are your thoughts on negative news going viral much more than positive news? You go on social media spaces, it's easy to get drawn into negative news because it's easier to sell. Why is negative news easy to sell?
I would say that there's a reason why clickbait work, right? There's a reason why clickbait work on a large scale level. Human beings negative news will push faster because they want to hear what the gist is. What's the gossip? Hey, where they happen? You get that kind of thing. It will make me like I will be gingered come and hear it. So people tend to want to push that, that sort of narrative for entertainment purposes, or to just sort of live vicariously and confirm whatever their own biases are, right? Which is the reason why it will fly. It's not necessarily the right thing, right? It also leads to a lot of decay and a lot of false news spreading, but it's just the nature of human beings, right? Bad news will spread like wildfire. But as people who the bad news is being spread about, they almost also lies on it to be able to convert that to then feed for you. There's a saying that no press is really bad press. Right, is able to use that to then convert into something that works for you at the end of the day.
Have you ever thought, of regulation of the internet space? Do you think that regulation might be a good thing? I mean, people have had several conversations around regulating the internet space, and we know that people in power might misuse it. However, have you ever at any point thought that maybe the internet should be regulated?
I mean, I would say yes and no. Maybe on the basis of fact checking and on the basis of just guidelines and principles, I think yes, right? It would be a good thing for it to be regulated, but you also don't want to stifle the opinions of people, right? You don't want, it's a social space. People should be able to air their opinions as freely as possible and not feel like they have, sort of shut their voices down. So it's a hard line for, platforms to sort of navigate, and even people or governments to navigate, so that you're still maintaining that freedom of speech, or maybe there is it's sort of like a way for us to then judge what the sentiments of people are. It's a great way to do that, but then there's a narrow line of then defining, how you then want to control cyberbullying basically, so that you're not sort of creating more problems than you are creating solutions by reason of these platforms.
Okay, so very recently we've seen the rise of certain social commentators, and lawsuits are flying everywhere. So these social commentators come, they say something online, people slam them with lawsuits in millions, hundreds of millions. What are your thoughts on the rise of social commentators?
I mean, it's still freedom of speech. I think as a famous president said, I can guarantee you freedom of speech. What's freedom in our own context? Anyway, I can guarantee freedom of speech, but not necessarily freedom after this speech. Right? Very sort of proud people, right? And they have, and as a consequence of that, they have very, very big egos, right? So you are going to say lots of things, and you are going to get lawsuits, right? Because then there is a case of slander and then defamation. So there's also, as social commentators, there's a responsibility of sort of being wise in terms of how to pass a message.
So we barely have 2 minutes to wrap this up.
There are media guidelines that will keep up.
Yeah, we barely have 2 minutes to wrap this up. So I'm going to be very, very particular. There was a particular Time Blessing CEO came online and said something against an entire tribe. She said something about Bini people. So in such cases, I mean, it's not particular at a Bini person, but she said something against an entire tribe. What do you make of that? And what do you think should have been done about that?
And it's a constant bias that a lot of human beings have. It's like something happens, and then I assume that because this thing happens with this person, this is how everybody in the media, sort of behaves, right? So it's not, we sort of make a big deal out of this and then want to crucify one person, but in truth and in actual fact, we all sort of do this in one way or another. There's just, just that sort of general idea, in the way that we sort of address that. Was it good? Was it right? Of course not, because that was a generalized statement. So I think it can be addressed as that. So when next you're coming online, make it specific to this, situation, and not generalize it, dragging a lot of tribe. I mean, she got the consequence of that for and she should be more careful going forward. But we'll see that she will really.
Thank you very much, Oluwaseun. Thank you for your time. Rubbing Minds continues after this break. Stay with us.